How's my hair?
I already fixed your hair.
Oh God, now you're ruining it. Welcome back to our channel, guys. If you're new here, I'm Andre.
And I'm Lisa.
And we are recording this from a very strange place next to the road, so hopefully the light's gonna work and not too many noises.
The road in Sweden, we should say.
Yes, in Sweden. Although we're still traveling northwards on our epic journey towards Norway, we're interrupting our normal schedule to make this very special video on the 1 year anniversary
of our Campervan.
Believe it or not, it's been a year since we bought this guy, and it almost marks a year since we've been in it full time. So this is quite a milestone.
And so today we're going to reflect on 10 pros and 10 cons of our choice of purchasing a 20-year-old motorhome. We're also going to discuss the most significant improvements and additions that we've made to our campervan over the past year of full-time van life. This includes 10 somewhat pricey items, but ones that we believe have been well worthwhile, and also 10 cheap and easy upgrades that anybody can do to improve your van life experience.
Relatively cheap, relatively easy. First thing to note is that we have some motorhoming experience. It wasn't our very first time we came to Europe and just blindly bought a van. We actually came to Europe in 2018 and we borrowed a motorhome from a family member, and we lived in it and traveled through parts of Northern and Western Europe for about 4 months. Since then, we've always sort of kept this idea of motorhoming through Europe in the back of our minds, but that was pre-COVID days, so we had other things to do and everything was sort of pushed forward a little bit. But once we realized that this is probably an opportunity for us to come to Europe, we've been keeping a keen eye on the market, trying to figure out what works for us. So we have got a bit of experience with living in a motorhome. We've learned a few lessons already. We knew sort of what we wanted from the experience. When we came back to Italy in 2021 with the purpose of buying a motorhome and start traveling, it was probably the worst time possible. There was very little supply on the market because domestic travel was at its peak after COVID, and there was no manufacturing of new vans, so we were actually left with very little choice.
So we really hope that this video will be helpful to anyone who's considering either long-term rental or purchasing your own motorhome to travel through Europe, because for us, having that previous experience really helped, and now after a full year of full-time van life, there's a lot of things that we think we can share with you. Our next video will pick up with our travels once again, where we find lots of wind and a chance of meatballs. So make sure that you click the subscribe button to follow along for the rest of our adventure.
Yes, let's kick off the video now. If we refer to products, we'll link to them below in the description, so you can check them out. Some of them may be affiliate links. If you feel like it, click on those links. If you do buy something at no additional cost to you, we might get a small commission, just so you know. Firstly, we're going to talk about, I think, the pros and the cons.
And if you do want to see a little bit more of our van conversion that we did and all the improvements that we've made, be sure to go back and click on this video, left or right?
Up here.
This video, to see what Milli Vanilli used to look like.
Well, in fairness, everything's ongoing. Right now, we're actually making a list of stuff we might need to get to make some changes, because as everything evolves, and obviously if you live in a van, I don't know if these things are really made to live in full time. So it's a constant mission to keep things running smoothly and keep maintained, but that's just part of it. Pros, firstly, now we decided to purchase our van through a dealer. Look, there's plenty of options available privately. For us, there was an added peace of mind. They gave us mechanical warranty, they gave us some waterproofing warranty, and because we bought an older van, they also knew the history of this specific van. We looked at a few, although there weren't that many available. If you buy through a dealer, at least you get some peace of mind, and there's also some legal recourse ultimately.
Now, buying an older van obviously means that you're going to spend less, and in our opinion, at the time with what was available, we paid a very reasonable price for the van that we got, because it ticked a lot of our boxes, and we knew that we would rather spend the money ourselves in customizing the van to what we like.
Keeping in mind that there's no such thing as a perfect match. Everything's a compromise. We knew what we wanted. It's impossible to find. Maybe it is. In our budget, who knows?
Yeah. But let's talk about our layout and the living area and why we ended up going for this van particularly. First thing is it has a permanent bed. Now this is both a pro and a con. For us, the pros are that it's ready to use at any time. If one person wants to still be working and somebody else isn't feeling well, they can lie down. Our bed is a French layout, but it's a little bit narrow and it's got the one corner cut off. But it also means that you can enter and exit the bed without having to entirely climb over me, which is what you often have with the crosswise beds. And secondly, the bed has enough headroom that you can sit up in bed, be it to read or actually work in the bed, and just have a little bit more space, not feel too claustrophobic when you're in bed.
Leading on to that, having a fixed bed actually gives you the opportunity to have overhead storage over the bed. I probably would prefer integrated van now with a pull down bed, but suddenly you lose so much storage space. So one of the nice things about this specific motorhome is because it's got the rear bed, we got a lot of storage cabinets. It's like all around the van, semi-integrated front with cabinets. It's really proved invaluable, and this is a debatable topic, but we also have a full-length wardrobe.
I think it's a very economical way of storing clothing.
Yes, absolutely. And then obviously having a fixed bed in a way adds a decent garage underneath the bed. Now in a perfect world, I would like a garage to extend the width of the van, but then you compromise on the size of your bathroom, but we'll get to that in a second. Having storage space is absolutely critical, especially for us. We do water sport, I kite surf, we have leisure gear, so you need space to keep that stuff organized.
And speaking of space, yes, we've got a very big spacious bathroom. We've got a separate shower as well as a fairly big bathroom area with toilet and basin. And at first I was a little bit hesitant to this and I thought it was a bit of wasted space in the van, but after living in it for a year, I'm so grateful for that separate shower, because it's not only about getting the toilet wet and things like that when you do shower, it's another space that you can use for other things. So often when you kite, you can hang your wetsuits there. If we do laundry and it's raining or things aren't quite dry, we can hang that in the shower space and ventilate the bathroom.
Frankly, I don't know how people live without a shower in their van. That's one of the things we learned in 2018, that you need a dedicated bathroom space for our lifestyle.
Yes. Okay, then another real pro, and actually a little bit of a surprise to us with the van, is that our one front chair is a captain's chair and does swivel. Now, we didn't know this when we bought it. It was on our wish list. It just integrates the front cab space a little bit more. And not only that, but you can sit in the front more comfortably and enjoy the views from inside your van.
Another motivation that swung us to buy this specific van was it came with a bicycle rack at the back, which is great. It actually could take 4 bicycles, but we modified it ever so slightly so it could take our big cargo bike. It also came with, which we didn't know when we bought, stabilizer legs. Now that sounds like a bit of a gimmick, and a lot of the time when you park, you can't really use those stabilizers in parking lots, but still, when you have the opportunity and it's windy, man, there's nothing like stopping the rocking of the van to just put those stabilizer legs in.
I have to agree.
The van also came with a fitted air conditioner in the living space. It's debatable how useful it is to us. It's actually worth quite a little bit of money. So I think if you're in a place where you have shore power, which we need to run it, then, and it's really hot, it can actually be quite nice.
And I think some of those add-ons are things that you should definitely consider if you are looking at different prices and purchasing a van, because it's surprising just how expensive those things can be if you have to buy them after the fact, because you'll most likely have to buy them new. They're not the easiest things to find secondhand and at a good price separately.
Almost everything you add to an old van doesn't really add value to the van itself. So it's got to add value to your experience. So you have to weigh up the pros of spending that money versus going without it, and understanding that that money is actually just on you. So let's move on to the negatives. Unfortunately, this is a 20-year-old van. It means it's an old diesel, it's Euro 3. It means like we are really severely limited to certain places we can go. You have to almost be Euro 5 vehicle now to be able to drive in low emission zones. So keep that in mind when you're looking at vehicles. Furthermore, this van did not come with air conditioning in the cab, which is peculiar, but I guess that was a cost-saving exercise initially. So far, it hasn't really bothered us, but I tell you what, it is nice. I would suggest make sure you get air conditioning.
Then, with regards to the layout, one of the biggest disadvantages and one of the things that was on our wish list was a bigger fridge. We've got a very small fridge and small freezer compartment, but having a larger full tower fridge would have made such a big difference to us.
We really struggle to not only store stuff, but you have to go to shops regularly, which really is a bit of a pain, because you're constantly playing Tetris. What can I buy that's going to be fresh? We
How
can't
long
freeze
can greens
anything.
last?
It's a tough
and
one.
of course, a bigger freezer for ice creams. Then, as you also mentioned, vaguely, with regards to the aircon, the roof of this van, it's one of the older vans, and it's not made for standing on or putting any additional weight on. So the capacity of our roof is very limited, and we had to take this into consideration also when adding solar panels or anything else. And unfortunately, our roof also does not have a skylight. Which we would have loved to get some light in from the top, and privacy light. So we've got beautiful big windows, which we love, which has done a lot of light. But if you're in a parking lot where you want some privacy and you close up, then we don't have any skylights. And then when it comes to the bed, like I said, there's some pros and cons. The cons are that it's a narrow bed. It's only 1.25 meters wide, and for someone sleeping with a rather big guy.
No. Someone who always sleeps in a fetal position get knees in their chest, and I don't mean your chest, I mean my chest. So. All
right, so the bed is a little bit narrow. It's a comfortable bed, but that means that it also always takes up space because it's permanent, which could otherwise be used for something else.
What I consider a negative in this van, it's got a pressurized water system. What that means is the water pump constantly pressurizes the plumbing, and it can be good in a way because it improves the flow of water, so you can get high capacity water, and you can obviously use domestic
tap fittings. Yes. So
like
we get great pressure for a shower.
But if there's any leak or any failure anywhere in your plumbing system, it means that it's a disaster. If you buy an older van, the likelihood is that seals have perished and the system is a little bit dated, and in fact these things want to be used more than just standing. So we had to replace our water pump. It failed on us within a month.
First month.
And all the seals were shot, and now you're under pressure because you're actually away from your home base, so you had to just find something as a replacement. We also had to replace some taps, and the fittings were all wonky, so you had to replace pipe sections. So it's really something you got to think about. If I could choose, I would probably use a micro switch system, so every time you open a tap it actually triggers the pump to work. Because the van is so old and obviously not used regularly or full time, we don't know what the condition of the batteries are. So we got the starter battery and we got the habitation or
leisure
battery. Within the first month our leisure battery failed. Then we learned that it's the incorrect battery for the application that was fitted, so we had to replace our battery. And we had to replace our starter battery due to age. And just to get back on the water pump, that was 150 euros to replace that water pump. It doesn't even include all the sundries and fittings. I think the deep cycle leisure battery is like 160 or 160 euros. So it's a chunky piece of money. So when someone looks at a 20-year-old van, these are the things that's very important. Bargain to replace the battery, starter battery, leisure battery. Bargain to, unless it's been recently retrofitted with a new system or it's got lithium or something in it, look at the taps and you should consider replacing the water pump.
So this is the thing, if you do save by buying an older vehicle, make sure that you budget at least 500 to 1,000 euro just for replacing those things, no matter what the condition is.
For sure. We're moving on to additions, or what we would call improvements or upgrades. It's slightly more expensive, but these have proved indispensable. So once again, it's going to depend on your van. We recently saw friends, and they just bought a second-hand van almost the same age, and the previous owner has just retrofitted it with a fantastic solar system. Now our van didn't come with any solar, so the problem is the money you invest in these kind of things does not add value to the van per se. Well, we learned a few lessons. We first got 2 portable solar panels of 60 watt each,
and the reason for that was that, like you said, it isn't an investment in the van, so we thought we'd rather get portable panels. We can use them more versatilely, and we can also resell them, but that was a learning error.
Yeah, luckily we bought fairly affordable. I see the price has shot up, and we bought 2 60-watt portable panels for under 150 euros for the 2, which is great. We got ourselves an EcoFlow River Pro. Now this is like a solar bank, and we've been using it now for almost a year, and it's just a phenomenal piece of kit. So we only got good things to say about it, but they are pricey. They start at around 700 euros. We've separated what the motorhome needs in terms of electrics from what we need to run our electronics. So we use our solar bank for electronics, and then we use the motorhome battery, the leisure battery, to run the water pump and the lights, etc. And obviously we had to fit 2 solar panels on the roof, and we opted to go for flexible solar panels, 230 watt panels panels, and that's just to keep the weight down. And that was about 200 euros in total, which is also a steal. I see the price have just gone up crazy. Now, this doesn't include all what we needed to make it work. We sort of sundries and cables and switches and fuses, and because we had to wire the whole thing ourselves. I still haven't made a video actually on this, but it's a super simple system, but that probably adds another 100 euros.
But it is something that's worth spending money on. Having these 2 solar panels on the roof and being able to generate and store sufficient capacity has absolutely been a game changer for us. We managed to go through 5 or 6 weeks in Portugal without plugging into electricity once. It is well worth the investment if you want to be able to camp off-grid. Make sure that you do your homework properly, because there are just so many things that you need to take into consideration. Like you said, smaller versus bigger panels, how you connect your panels in parallel or in series, the type of coating, etc., etc.
This is a specialized topic. There's so many more efficient ways to do it. So, for example, you can drop 2,000 euros and put a lithium leisure battery into your car and have a DC to DC charger from your motor, and suddenly all your problems are gone. So maybe you don't need solar. Okay, but solar works for us. It was a cost-effective solution. Now, the next addition that I think is probably even more valuable than solar is we fitted a refillable LPG system. We would not have been able to travel across Europe otherwise, because the reality is, like, every country has its own bottles, its own regulators, its own connectors. So either you have to just throw your bottles away and get a new one and change the regulator wherever you go and hope for the best, or just live without gas. We spent only 260 odd euros, that's without sundries, but it pretty much gave us capacity to fit 11 kilograms refillable system with an external point, and it's been magic. Next on our list was installing a rear view or reversing camera. Once again, this van did not have one.
And we went for quite a while before you did that.
No, what it means is you just can't do safe reversing actions.
You mean
maneuvers.
It's not safe when I tell you, come stop?
What's happening? Who's going where? We can't. We actually use it like ours as a rear view camera, as or rear view mirror.
Yeah, rear view mirror.
It cost us 100 euros. In retrospect, I should have done it a year ago, and we went 10 months without doing it. Let's quickly talk about some security features. Some of them we put them under expensive, but it's actually not that expensive. When I look at these now,
not individually, but cumulatively, it does add up,
I guess. But all of them are fairly simple and straightforward. Like, for example, we've added a Wi-Fi camera. Now, we do have a little Wi-Fi hotspot we run in the van, and because we have the solar bank, it's easy to keep that alive. Obviously, the challenge is to get internet wherever you are, but that's a whole different video, a whole different day. So Wi-Fi camera, sort of, we can monitor the inside, we can set it for motion activation, we can do it remotely, and it just gives you that sort of extra peace of mind. If there's any movement, it'll alert you remotely. Second thing was we opted to fit a lockbox, like a little safe that's bolted to the chassis, and we predominantly keep our valuables like documents, spare keys, some cash if we have in there, and maybe like backup hard drives and those kind of things. I mean, that safe cost us like 25 euros, so it's like next to nothing. Steering lock, simple to use. We paid like 30 euros. I saw that these guys are a little bit more expensive, but I really like the way these steering locks work. It's always ready. It's very unobtrusive, quick to use, so I'll link to that in the description below, and I'll show you guys what it looked like. And then we also opted to fit external locks to our habitation doors, because as we know, it's very easy to open these car doors. And
even though those external locks are fairly expensive, 50 euro each, they are well worth it.
I think so. And we also put little alarms on each window. Now, that just means that if someone does pop a window, the alarm's going to alert us. And top tip, slightly off the list, we have an Amazon Echo, which actually listens for beeps. So
broken glass.
So if there's a smoke alarm or a CO2 alarm or a window alarm, it'll alert us via the Alexa app, which is quite cool.
Okay, now more to the comfort things. That's a lot to do with functional and everything like that. But some of the comfort things that we spent money on were, we got ourselves a new mattress. If you're going to buy an old van, it doesn't really matter how much it's been used. It's always nice to get yourself a brand new mattress. Man, we spent 120 euro. Managed to buy an ordinary mattress and just cut the corner off and customize it for our van, and that has been such a big difference in our quality of sleep. We also did new upholstery to the couches, as well as putting new foam in the couches. I did it myself, so I just bought the material and sewed it. bought the foam and did everything ourselves, DIY style. That cost us another €135. And we also covered our table. And the aesthetic improvements as well as the comfort improvements were well worth that cost. You can spend a lot more and get it professionally done, but in my opinion, doing it by yourself is just as good a job because you can rather do it again more regularly. These things don't last forever.
I'm quite surprised we've got a year and there's no marks on our couches
I know,
yet.
they're still looking really good. I think get a decent material, that's important.
Don't be messy.
And don't be messy.
Speaking of, next item.
Okay, so for those of you who are messy, or even if you aren't, this is one of the best purchases that we made for the van, and that's a Black & Decker vacuum cleaner. It's a lithium cordless vacuum cleaner, and it's not cheap. It's €100.
It was
€100, but it is absolutely worth it. We use this daily. In fact, I want to say, even though I love it,
5 times a day.
I think Andre uses it all the time.
Oh, I love that thing. That's an amazing little machine.
It really makes living in a van that much easier if you can clean the van efficiently. The other thing that we installed to the van was an inline drinking water filter tap. Now, this wasn't that expensive. We only paid €64 for it, but the filters do need to be changed annually, and that costs about another €45.
We also decided to cut a hole into our van.
Because, you know,
some
why
call us
not?
stupid, some call us brave, and put an outside shower. Not strictly necessary, but super handy if you do some outdoorsy things. Kite surfing comes to mind. You can just quickly rinse yourself outside, and it was actually reasonably cheap. Initially, the shower kit was cheap, but the whole setup was a little bit more expensive. I think we probably spent total about €50 to €60, which is actually not that bad, to be honest. And then we also did is this guy gonna pee in the bush? I think he might be.
Oh man, there's a he just was.
Okay.
The last item that I think is a little bit pricey and that I was in two minds about is internal custom shades or insulation for the front cab, so for the front window as well as the sides. It's something that you can either go cheap and easy, which we first did, and just buy ordinary car shades, but the truth is they don't last very long and they don't give nearly the same amount of insulation, not only just for the sun protection. So we eventually did get the ones that are custom for our van, but I'm very happy that we've got them. I think it's well worth doing that for your van if you're going to be spending a fair amount of time in it.
Right, next category is like cheaper and easier, more DIY style additions, fixtures to sort of improve your experience, and which we feel had made a massive difference to our life in our van.
These are all under €50. In fact, most of them are far
Even
below
less.
€50.
Even less.
The first one, which I think has made the biggest difference in the van, is interior mirrors. So we bought two big mirrors and we put the one above the bed and the one on the bathroom door, and that just brings in so much more light into the van. And although the mirrors are super, super cheap, just make sure that if you do this, you buy the correct adhesive so that mirrors stay stuck onto the wall.
I want to say we spent more on the adhesive than
the
on we used like a super flexible Fisher double-sided super duper sticky thing, but it was so expensive. I think the mirrors were like €20 for the two and the adhesive was €20.
And then speaking of the big windows,
Another
the other
challenge.
thing that we added, which is really cheap, they're about €10 each, is Venetian blinds. Can I show?
Yeah, sure.
And what we've done is we've got these guys, just PVC Venetian blinds, and that means that we can get a little bit of privacy without blocking all light out, and we can also just regulate the amount of light that we get in, especially when we're working on computers and devices as such.
Another thing we did more aesthetic was to paint all the cupboard doors. All the vans tend to be this wood finish thing, and it's really not super attractive. So to brighten the space up a bit, we spent like €20 on rattle cans, and we took a bit of care to do it. There's a bit of effort. You have to take the doors down and tape them up and be careful, but it was so worth it. We did a DIY conversion to LED on all the existing lights. It's actually a simple job because all the lights, although they're mostly fluorescent, they actually run off 12 volts, but they got little ballast in them which make them super inefficient. So what you can do is I literally just cut those old lights off. You buy a roll of LED and you cut a piece off and you just solder some connectors on them and you put it in place. Additionally, we've added some monitoring systems, also really cheap and easy additions to give you more peace of mind when you drive. So a big thing for us has been to add a tire pressure monitoring system, so we at a glance can see what the temperature is and what the pressure is of each of our tires, and sort of gives us a bit of
I really like that.
Yeah, you drive down the road and it's a bit of an uneven surface. You think, ooh, what's that? Is that my tire? And you can just see, no, everything's cool. Although we fitted the solar system, we've got solar controllers on that system, we've also fitted a battery monitor for our leisure battery, so we can actually see what the draw is on our battery. So whenever you switch on a light or a device or the water pump, you can see what is drawing power, how much is it drawing, what is the state and the health of the battery. And lastly, on monitors, something I actually think is absolutely
Really
worth
valuable.
it over and over is a thermometer for your fridge. So we bought like a little kit. It's got two external nodes. No, what do you call it?
Yeah, little nodes.
So we've got one outside and we've got one inside our fridge, and then the main unit can actually measure temperature as well. So you can see what is the temperature outside, you can see what is the temperature inside your habitation space, you can see what the temperature inside your fridge is.
Most importantly.
Because if you're running a three-way fridge like us, we're constantly switching between gas and electric if we drive, because you're not legally allowed to drive with the gas on. So we want to sort of create a constant temperature, and being able to monitor that temperature is critical. In terms of monitoring, we also have a smoke alarm, which is something every van should be equipped with, and we also have a carbon monoxide detect and alarm, which has already saved
us once.
Unknowingly, not because we ran out of oxygen, but because our leisure battery failed and it was emitting sulfur. Yeah, so that's very dangerous. This guy's going to
reverse into us.
I'm sure he's going to censor.
Smokes.
Okay, the other thing is, like I said, what's nice is we got the camera system, and we also got the little Echo Dot, which monitors noises for us.
Two very cheap things that we bought, which give us a lot of additional counter space because our kitchen is so small and limited, are an extra big bamboo board, which we create new counter space with in front of the door. This gives us a lot of extra workspace. And then secondly, we bought a big pizza board that we can put over our sink to create more counter space there. Another thing that we did to just protect our van is we bought some polycarb or perspex, and we cut it up into pieces, clear, to be able to protect the existing roller blinds. And we've done this at the bed, and sometimes we use it over here as well, just to make sure that we don't damage the existing roller blind system, which is very fragile in these old vans.
Ventilation and cooling. Now, you need some extraction, so we've retrofitted a little extraction fan over our kitchen just to vent steam, hot air when you cook. We've also got a fan, a 12-volt fan that we put in the outside of our fridge so that it improves the efficiency of the cooling. Also very simple. I've actually got videos where we did all of these, so if you're interested, I'll link below possibly, because I can't put them all up here. And those videos, you'll have to maybe look through the video. I'll try and get the time codes for those videos. We are still working on ventilation. Ventilation can be one of your biggest challenges, even more so in winter when things are closed up or it's rainy, and condensation can be a real challenge. So this is something that's super important that you've got to deal with.
All right, so our question is, after this year of full-time van living in our 20-year-old motorhome, have we learned some lessons?
I think we're constantly learning, and keeping in mind that, you know, what works for us doesn't work for everybody necessarily. You know, we live alone in a fairly small motorhome, so you might have very different ideas to what we have. But would we have done anything differently if we could go back in time? That's the big question. Retrospectively, super happy with what we found at the time. I think it suited our needs, and
it ticked so many of those boxes that we wanted it to tick, and especially considering what was available at the time, and having lived in the van for a year, we're very happy with our motorhome.
It's always tricky because you can buy cheap, you can buy a really old banged up thing, or you can do a van or already converted van, but it's going to catch up to you eventually. Now, I'm under no illusion that this old van is going to hold value.
No, but hopefully it will still give us another at least year or 2 years of good full-time living and travel in it.
And if you keep sort of your hand on the maintenance tasks and waterproofing, then it can really serve you well. So considering the value for money we got, I think we're super happy. Yes, there's a few things that I think I would like different. I think one thing we've learned is we don't really want a bigger van, but it's it's debatable whether you want to be able to store, for example, your bicycles inside the van. So do you take the length that the bicycle rack add and you have a slightly bigger van and then you put your bicycles inside? However, the moment you go to 7-meter vans, everything changes. The van becomes a bit heavier, and to keep it under 3.5 tons, which it legally need to be, otherwise you have to move into a different category of license, firstly, and you might be limited to where you can go.
And of course, having a van under 6 meters, even if it's just under 6 meters, has a huge advantage once again, because firstly, you fit into any parking space very easily, and secondly, for taking ferries and travel and things like that, very often any motorhome less than 6 meters is roughly half the price than over 6 meters. That's where the differentiation is made. So there is part of us that would love to have a van that's under 6 meters, but at the same time, we need more storage.
The only way you can sort of manage both of those criteria is if you have a fully integrated 6-meter van. So something that we would look at, for example, which comes with compromises, is we'd have a integrated cab with a drop-down bed in the front. So the front seats will swivel and will create a dinette area. The bathroom probably won't be as big as ours. It'll be slightly smaller with maybe a swinging open shower, and then the rear will actually constitute your storage areas.
And it has to have a big enough garage with big enough openings that we could then hopefully fit a bike inside. Although with a cargo bike, that's always going to be a challenge.
Our cargo bike is 2.1 meters long. It's almost impossible to fit it into a vehicle.
We would definitely suggest that you either rent or loan a van before you look at purchasing your own van, because just even if you only spend 1 month or 2 months in a van, you will quickly learn what works for you in terms of layout, in terms of priorities, and that's always going to be specific to you. So it's hard for somebody else to give you those tips.
Okay, guys. Well, let's wrap this up. Hopefully, our experience can help you in buying that first van, or be okay with trying to buy an older van. And we sure are happy, and we're going to spend a lot more time in Millie, and we would like to thank you for watching as always.
And if you enjoyed this video, please remember to give it a thumbs up, click subscribe, and if you've got any comments, let us know below.
We'll catch you guys on the road next time. Thanks for watching.
Ciao.
Bye.